Okay, this is problem number 3 in lessons on solving equations. And you can notice this time a little more difficult problem. I've included some parentheses. Obviously, we've got to get rid of parentheses in a problem like this. So in order to do that, we've got coefficients of 6 on the outside of this parentheses, coefficient of -3 on the outside of these. We're going to use distributive property, and what I like to do is to draw an arrow from 6 to the two terms inside the parentheses, so I remind myself that 6 must be multiplied by both of these terms. The same thing with the -3. Arrows so that I remind myself I've got two terms to multiply by -3. So let's go ahead and do our distributive property. 6 times 2x is 12x. 6 times 3 is 18, positive. Bring down the 9 because we didn't do anything to it. -3 times 2x is -6x. -3 times -5, I'm multiplying two negatives, which makes it a positive 15. Okay, let's go ahead and simplify on this side. Since we've got two constants here we want to combine. Positive 18 minus 9 is positive 9, equals -6x plus 15. One thing I want to point out is I always bring down my steps. Even though I don't do anything to this side, I still continue to bring it down so I don't forget anything. Okay, our goal in solving equations is to isolate the variables on one side, the non-variables on the other. So we're going to make this easy by adding 6x to both sides. Opposite operation of subtraction is addition. So we're going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to simplify. 12x plus 6x is 18x. Bring down the 9 equals -6x plus 6x is 0. 0 plus 15 is 15. And I failed to put my equal sign there because I remind myself I'm doing the same thing on both sides. And finally, we've got to get the 9 on this side, so we have all the non-variables over here. Do the opposite operation of adding 9. We're going to subtract 9 from both sides. Then let's simplify. 18x. Positive 9 minus 9 is 0, so 18x plus 0 is 18x. 15 minus 9 is 6. Finally, last step, isolate the x. We're going to do that by doing the opposite operation of multiplication, which is division. We write it as, looks like a fraction, but it's 18x divided by 18. And the same thing on this side, divide by 18. When I simplify, 18 eighteenths is 1. 1 times x is x, equals 6 eighteenths. Can be reduced because we can divide both numerator and denominator by 6. We get 1/3. You can do the same thing we did on the last problem. Take your 1/3, insert it in place of the x's from the original problem, work it out, and you will have confidence that the answer is x equals 1/3. Problem 4 in the lessons on solving equations, once again, is a little more difficult. As you can see, it looks like two big fractions that we're working with. But instead, to me, it looks like two division problems. So the first thing we've got to do is we never want to leave a problem in this form. So we want to get rid of the denominators of 3 and 5. Now remember, you can't just multiply this side by 3 and get rid of the 3 and this side by 5 to get rid of 5. Because one thing, we're not doing the same thing to both sides. And that's one of our rules in solving equations. We must do the same problem, the same operation to both sides of the equation. So what we do is we look and try to determine what's the least common multiple. In this case, it's 15. If you are never quite sure what number you need to multiply by, you can always just multiply those two together. May not be the least common multiple, but it will work. So in this case, we're going to put parentheses around this and around this big fraction. We're going to put 15 out here, 15 out here. Now I like to make these 15 over 1 because it is a fraction and we can work it as a fraction. So we want to reduce this or simplify it. Well, 15 over 1 and the numerator 5 plus 3t over 3. Remember that we're multiplying these. When you multiply fractions, you multiply across. So we can actually flip this and make this a 3 and this a 1 because it's commutative and it can be flipped. 1 times 3 is the same as 3 times 1. This just makes it easier to see that 15 divided by 3 is 5. And that simplifies the inside of that parentheses. Same thing over here. We can flip this. 1 times 5 is the same as 5 times 1. 15 divided by 5 is 3. This now is negative 10 plus 12t. But we still have parentheses, so we have to do what we did in the last problem, and that is the distributive property. Making sure that we understand that we've got to multiply 5 times each of the terms inside the parentheses. So that's 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times positive 3t is positive 15t. On this side, once again, I draw my arrows to remind myself not to forget. 3 times negative 10 is negative 30. 3 times positive 12t is positive 36t. Okay, rule in solving equations, get all of the variables on one side, the non-variables on the other. So let's this time take 15 and subtract it from both sides. This is positive 15, so we did the opposite operation. We're going to simplify 25, and these two cancel because positive 15t minus 15t is 0. 0 plus 25 is 25. Bring down the negative 30. Positive 36t minus 15t is positive because the 36 is larger. Positive 21. 21t. My 1's and my t's want to cross. Okay, once again we want to get the variable on one side, the non-variables on the other. We have switched it this time. You see we've got the variable on the right side. We kept it positive. So let's add 30 on both sides so that we can move this. So that gives us 55 equals, these cancel, make 0 plus 21t is 21t. Now, want to get t isolated? We must divide by 21 on both sides. When we do, we get these cancel. 21 21st is 1. 1t is t. 55 over 21, if we don't want to leave it in that form, we're going to divide 21 into 55, which gives us 2. 2 times 21 is 42. I'm doing some mental math here. That leaves us with 13 over 21. This is simplest form because 13 is a prime number and only has factors of 1 and itself. So we've now found, even though it looks complicated, we have found the solution for this equation. 2 and 13 21st equals t. Okay, this is problem number 2 under the lessons on solving equations. On this problem, you notice that I have variables on both sides. So remember, our goal in solving equations is to bring all of the variables on one side and all the non-variables on the other. So that'll be the first thing that we'll do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the negative 2y. I want to move it to the other side. Remember, our scale of balances, we have to do the same thing to both sides. So we look at this operation, subtraction, so we want to do the opposite or the inverse operation, which is addition. We're going to add 2y to both sides. Remember to put your equal sign so it's a reminder that you've got to do the same thing on both sides. Now we're going to simplify, and we get 7y. Bring down the 7 equals, bring down 28. These two cancel because negative 2y plus 2y is 0. 0 plus 28 is 28. We still must get all of the non-variables to this side, so we're going to do the opposite operation of plus 7. We're going to make this a negative 7 or minus 7 on both sides. Equal sign to remind us we do the same thing on both sides. Let's simplify. 7y. This is positive 7 minus 7 equals 0, so 7y plus 0 is 7y. 28 minus 7 is 21. And now, our final goal in solving equations is to isolate the variable. Right now we've got 7 y's, 7 times y, but we've got to get it down so we know the value of just one y. To do that, once again, we do the inverse operation. Well, 7y is a multiplication problem, 7 times y, so we're going to divide by 7 on both sides. And then we simplify. 7y divided by 7. These cancel because 7/7 is 1. So 1 times y is y. 21 divided by 7 is 3. Now what I'm going to do now is to show you how you can check yourself on every problem. There is hardly any math problems that you cannot check yourself on so that you're confident in the answer that you've gotten. So we're going to take the value of y as 3. We're going to go to the original problem. You always have to go back to the original because you might have messed up somewhere along the way. So we go back to the original. We're going to substitute in for these y's, and we're going to get 5 times 3 plus 7 equals 28 minus 2 times 3. We simplify, we get 5 times 3 is 15 plus 7, 28. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. One more time we simplify to 15 plus 7 is 22. 28 minus 6 is 22. These are equal. Therefore, we have the correct answer with y equals 3.